You did not choose your God. Your brain built one for you, whether you wanted it or not. Every human culture ever studied has one. Not most. Every single one. That is not a coincidence. That is a design feature. Even a jar of instant coffee can look like a burning bush if your brain's primed to see one. Wrong kind of miracle. Today, we're explaining the one you actually run on. 200,000 years ago, a human hears a rustle in the grass. It could be wind. It could be a leopard. Guess wind and you're wrong once in a while. No harm done. Guess leopard when it's just wind and you just wasted a sprint. But guess wind when it's actually a leopard, you don't get to guess again. So, natural selection built you a hair trigger. See an agent first, ask questions later. Psychologists call it hyperactive agency detection, a ridiculous name for a simple habit. Your brain assumes somebody did it, even when nobody did anything. You hear your own doorbell malfunction and immediately blame a ghost. It's a loose wire, but your brain reaches for an agent first, every time. Psychologist Justin Barrett named this the HAD, the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device. It fires on wind, on shadows, on creaking floors, on your own dead relatives. It overfires on purpose. A false alarm costs nothing. A missed predator costs your life. So the humans who survived were the paranoid ones. You are descended from the nervous. Now take that same jumpy machine and point it at the whole sky. Thunder cracks. Your leopard detector doesn't know the difference between a cat and the cosmos. It fires anyway. Something huge just did something on purpose. Drought, flood, plague, a good harvest. Your brain assigns an author to all of it. That author needs a face, so we gave it one. This is not superstition arriving late. This is the same wiring that once saved your life. Same circuit, new target, that's the entire trick. But agency detection alone doesn't build a god. You need one more piece of machinery. It's called theory of mind. The ability to imagine what's going on inside somebody else's head. You do this constantly. Right now, guessing what I'm about to say next. It's how you know your friend is annoyed before she says a word. It is one of the most useful tools a social animal ever evolved. And like most useful tools, it doesn't know when to switch off. You point theory of mind at a storm, and the storm suddenly has a mood. You point it at a mountain, and the mountain is patient or jealous or asleep. You've argued out loud with a broken laptop like it owed you an explanation. It's a circuit board. It has no opinion of you. Try telling that to your hands. Combine the two circuits, an itch to detect agents and a habit of imagining minds. Now, every unexplained event in the world comes with a mind attached. That's not a bug in your brain. That's the exact shape a god fits into. You were never taught to believe in gods. You were built with the socket already there. But sockets get filled for reasons, and the first reason is death. Humans are the only animal that knows with total certainty that it's going to die. Not just aware of danger, aware of the ending. That's a different kind of terror. Anthropologists call this the problem of mortality salience. Knowing you die changes how you live. An animal that knows it will die needs somewhere to put that knowledge, or it becomes unlivable. Gods, souls, afterlives, they are not decoration. They're load-bearing. Take the keystone out, and the whole psychological structure doesn't just look worse, it falls. Stand at any modern funeral in a suit that never quite fits, holding a flower you don't know what to do with. Every culture on Earth built a story about where the dead go. None of them said, nowhere. That's suspicious. Universal comfort usually means universal need. Psychologists studying this call it terror management theory, a grim name for a simple idea. Remind people of their own death, and they cling harder to whatever explains it away. Researchers tested this directly. Remind people of death, their belief in an afterlife gets stronger. Not a coincidence, a defense mechanism running exactly as designed. But a belief that only comforted you wouldn't have spread across every continent on its own. Comfort explains why an individual clings to a god. It doesn't explain why a tribe does. For that, we need to leave the individual brain and look at the group. Somewhere around 10,000 years ago, human groups start getting bigger, much bigger. A band of 30 people can police itself. Everybody knows everybody's business. A city of 30,000 cannot. Most of those people are total strangers to each other. Strangers can lie to each other, cheat each other, steal, and simply walk away. In a small band, everyone watches everyone. In a city, nobody can watch everybody. So who watches the ones nobody else is watching? Cooperation needs an answer to that. The answer that scaled was a God who sees everything, even the things done in private. Not a God who just makes storms, a God who keeps score. Psychologist Norenzayan called these big gods, moralizing, all-seeing, punishing. His research found something striking. Societies with big gods could cooperate at massive scale. Societies without one tended to stay small. Trust simply couldn't stretch that far without help. Try sneaking an extra snack from the office fridge and you freeze, feeling watched. There's no camera, there never was. But the feeling of being watched still stops your hand. That reflex is ancient. Researchers call it the watching eyes effect, and it's been tested directly. Put a picture of eyes above an honesty box and people pay more, every single time. Take the eyes down and the coins in the box quietly drop. Nobody admits why. You do not need real surveillance. You just need to believe someone might be looking. Now scale that trick up to an entire civilization and put the eyes in the heavens. A God who sees everything means strangers can trust each other without ever meeting. You'll behave because something is watching. He'll behave for the exact same reason. That shared belief is the glue. It let cooperation scale past the size of a village. Empires, temples, trade routes, law codes, all of it built on the same trick. Gods didn't just comfort the dying, they built the scaffolding entire civilizations stood on. So far we've built the machine. Now let's watch it actually run piece by piece. Start with a coincidence. Your neighbor gets sick right after you argued with him. Your brain does not file that as random. Your brain files that as cause and effect. Something with intention did that. Something noticed the argument and responded. That's not proof of a god. That's the had and theory of mind working exactly together. Once a culture agrees an invisible mind is watching, every coincidence becomes a message. A message needs a response, and a response looks a lot like a ritual. Rituals are strange from the outside. Chanting, kneeling, burning things nobody needs to burn. But rituals do something measurable. They synchronize a group's heartbeat, quite literally. Studies of group chanting and dancing find heart rates actually fall into sync across the room. Synchronized bodies feel like one body. That feeling is not an accident either. It's a bonding mechanism, and religion happened to be an extremely effective delivery system for it. Join a modern spin class, and somehow you end up weirdly bonded to a room full of strangers. It's the same circuit that once bonded a tribe around a fire. The decor just changed. So, a ritual builds trust between strangers. But trust needs one more ingredient to actually hold. It needs consequences. A promise means nothing if breaking it costs nothing. A watching God who punishes liars gives a promise actual weight, even with no witnesses around. That's why oaths in ancient courts were sworn on gods, not on other people. People lie to people constantly. Fewer people are willing to lie to something that sees everything. Put agency detection, theory of mind, death anxiety, and group trust together, and gods stop looking optional. They stop looking optional and they start looking load-bearing. So, what does a god actually do for a small group of hungry primates? First job, making cheetahs expensive. Try sneaking a snack, glance up out of habit, and freeze. Nobody's even there. Economists call this a commitment device, something that ties your hands in advance. A watching god is a commitment device you can carry in your skull. You don't need a police force if everyone already believes the sky is one. Anthropologist Richard Sosis studied this directly, comparing religious communes to secular ones. Religious communes lasted longer, secular ones dissolved faster on average. The difference wasn't the belief, it was the cost of joining. Sacrifice, fasting, strange diets, painful rituals, costly signals, all of them. A costly signal only works if a cheap liar can't fake it. If it costs you something real, everyone watching can trust it's real. Stare down a modern gym contract sometime, you'll sweat like it's a blood oath. Same instinct, new paperwork. We still trust people more after they've paid a price. Second job for a god, explaining disaster without blaming your neighbor. Groups without an explanation for bad luck tend to turn on each other. Blame a storm god instead of your brother-in-law, and the tribe survives the winter. This is the same reflex behind a modern superstition about bad days. Blame Mercury retrograde for a dropped phone and say it with a completely straight face. We didn't outgrow the instinct, we just changed which sky we point at. Third job, giving grief somewhere specific to go. Grief without a target tends to just circle forever. An afterlife gives grief an address, a place the dead supposedly went. Psychologists studying grief find that having any coherent story reduces prolonged distress. It doesn't have to be true, it has to be usable. Visit a modern grave, and you'll leave a flower there with total sincerity. Same gesture, 40,000 years apart. The address changed, the need didn't. Fourth job for a god, making promises stick between strangers. You'll cheat a stranger you'll never see again, unless something is keeping score. Economist Norenzayan calls this the big gods hypothesis. Bigger societies need bigger, more moralizing gods to hold strangers together. A hunting band of 30 doesn't need a god who cares about morality. Everyone already knows everyone. Reputation does the job for free. A city of 10,000 strangers has no such web. Something else has to hold it. That's when gods stop being about weather and start being about right and wrong. Norenzayan's cross-cultural data lines this up with the rise of large-scale civilizations. Small gods for small worlds. Big judgmental gods for big anonymous ones. Move from a tiny band of 30 to a crowded modern city and you look completely lost. Every stranger around you is a stranger you'll never see again. Trust has to come from somewhere. Contracts, laws, courts, cameras, modern replacements for the same watching eye. We didn't stop needing the eye, we just built new ones out of steel and law. Experiments back this up in ways that feel almost too simple. Researcher Melissa Bateson put up a picture of eyes over an Honesty Box coffee station. People paid nearly 3 times more when the eyes were watching than when flowers were. Nobody was actually watching. A printed picture did all the work. Pay for coffee, catch a photo of eyes staring down from the wall, and you'll drop in extra change. That's not a joke about you specifically. That's the mechanism, running exactly as designed. If a fake pair of eyes can do this, imagine what an all-seeing sky god could do. No coffee station, no office. Every field, every hut, every dark forest path. A god that sees everywhere is a surveillance system with zero installation cost. That's an efficient trick for a species that can't actually watch every member all the time. Outsource the watching to something that never blinks, never sleeps, never gets bored. That's not superstition being silly. That's a cheap, effective solution to a real coordination problem. Now stack this on top of everything else we've already covered. Agency detection hands you a mind behind the wind. Theory of mind fills in what it wants. Death anxiety demands the story doesn't end at the grave. Group trust needs an incorruptible witness who never takes a bribe. One idea answers all 4 demands at once. That's not a coincidence. That's design pressure. Evolution doesn't care where an idea comes from. It cares whether the idea keeps the group alive. Groups that believed in a watching, punishing God cooperated better than groups that didn't. Cooperating groups outfarmed, outbuilt, and outbred the groups that didn't. That's cultural selection. The belief didn't need to be true. It needed to be useful. Plant a flag on a hill and watch a rival tribe plant theirs right beside it, nervously. Between 2 roughly equal tribes, the one with better internal trust wins the long game. Not because their god was real, because their god made cheating expensive and cooperation cheap. This is why almost every surviving civilization ended up with some version of moral gods. Not one culture invented this. Dozens did independently on different continents. That's what convergent evolution looks like when the thing evolving is an idea instead of a wing. Different climates, different animals, different diets, same solution to the same trust problem. The details differ wildly, the underlying shape barely does. Sun god here, an ancestor spirit there, a single omniscient deity somewhere else. All of them punish cheaters. All of them reward cooperation. All of them see what you hide. That's not a coincidence of imagination. That's a coincidence of the problem every large group faces. Walk between 3 shrines from 3 different eras, and each one nods back like an old acquaintance. Same species, same brain wiring, same problem, wearing different hats across 10,000 years. None of this requires the gods to exist. It only requires the belief to be useful. That's an uncomfortable sentence for some people. It's not an insult. It's biology. Useful beliefs spread. True beliefs don't automatically get that privilege. A belief that makes strangers trust each other will spread whether or not it's accurate. This is why gods, across nearly every culture, care so much about lying, stealing, and cheating. They rarely care about things that don't threaten group cohesion. The moral rules track the survival problem almost exactly. That's the tell. If morality came from pure abstract truth, you'd expect more variation. You don't get much. You get remarkable convergence because the underlying problem never changed. Cooperate with the tribe. Don't steal from the tribe. Don't betray the tribe. Everywhere, every time. Try returning a wallet you found and feel your own hand shake with the effort of resisting temptation. That flicker of guilt you feel before doing something wrong isn't random. It's inherited machinery. 10,000 generations of ancestors who ignored that flicker got caught, punished, or exiled. Exile in the ancestral world usually meant death, alone, no group, no backup. So the ones who felt guilt before getting caught outlived the ones who only felt it after. Guilt isn't a moral achievement, it's a survival trait with excellent PR. Gods just gave that internal alarm a name, a face, and a permanent address in the sky. Once the alarm has an address, you can build rituals that reset it. Confession, sacrifice, penance, all different names for wiping the same internal ledger clean. A species without a reset button would drown in accumulated guilt within a single lifetime. Toss a coin into a wishing well and feel your own shoulders drop with relief. Nothing about the well changed. Your internal ledger just got a tiny symbolic wipe. Every culture on record built something like a reset ritual. That's not a small detail, that's the whole pattern. And once you see the pattern, the next question gets harder to avoid. If gods were just comfort, why do so many of them demand something from you? A god that only comforts is a nice story. A god that also watches is a management tool. That's the part natural selection actually cared about. Not whether the story was true, whether it made 100 strangers behave like they were being watched. A tribe that believes it's watched cooperates. A tribe that doesn't. One of those survives winter. So the invention wasn't the god. The invention was the feeling of being seen. You still carry it. The cameraless room where you still behave. The empty church where you lower your voice. That's not superstition left over. That's the same machinery, still doing its one job. You didn't inherit a belief. You inherited a bald ape that needed to be watched to behave. Worth sitting with next time you catch yourself behaving when no one's around. See you next time.